Rega joins us on the phone right now, senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It's good to have you, Mark. And I did want to get your take on this ceasefire resolution on the part of the United Nations that was vetoed by the U.S. The Palestinian Authority, as you might have heard, has not wasted any time condemning that, saying that the U.S. veto alone makes it responsible for the bloodshed. What did you make of their reaction?
Well, it's interesting that the Palestinian Authority on the West Bank is condemning the United States, and yet they still have not condemned the October 7th atrocities, the massacres, the murders, the rapes, the burning of people alive, the beheadings. They're very selective on who they decide to condemn.
So what's also interesting is, there's been an effort right now to share videos and proof of what happened on October 7th. But even among those who've seen them, there's a small group of people who say, well, it doesn't justify what Israel has done manyfold in response. How do you deal with that, Mark? How do you answer that? How does Israel handle just the PR from that?
Well, Neil, we're not acting out of rage. We're not acting out of a desire for revenge. What we're trying to do is to protect our people. And the Hamas leadership says over and over again that they would repeat the October 7th massacre. In other words, given the opportunity, given the capability, they would invade Israel again and they would butcher our people again. Now, in going into Gaza and taking out Hamas and destroying their capability of hurting us again, we are acting in self-defense. People need to understand that. And that's why the resolution yesterday at the Security Council was so bad, because it was a ceasefire that would have led Hamas in power. That just takes us back to October 6th. Now, I understand there might be some people of goodwill who says, well, let's just stop the fighting. But a Band-Aid solution that doesn't deal with the core of the problem, that leaves Hamas in power, means we'll have another atrocity, and there'll have to be another Israeli response, and we'll be back to square one, and you'll be interviewing me in another 6 months or a year because there'll be another Gaza war. No. This has to be finished once and for all, and that can only be done by the removal of Hamas.
Mark, I know you're asked this a lot, and we talk about the PR war, but that is something that Hamas seems to have seized the global sympathy more than you have. It seems unfathomable, but it is what it is. Human Rights Watch, for example, talked about the U.S. and Israel being complicit in war crimes. They had never cited what Hamas did in the first place to trigger all of this more than 2 months ago as a war crime. Separately, you're blamed for the conditions in Gaza that were prior to this attack, when the reality was you had no control. That is, Israel no control over Gaza. Hamas did, and Hamas ruled Gaza during this time. So the facts don't get out. And I know you have to say you move on from that, but when people deny what happened on October 7th and further deny the historical reality that Israel has really had no influence or control in this region for almost 2 decades, you can't win.
It's true. With some people, you can't win. Whatever we do will be wrong. Whatever the United States does will be wrong. That's their position, and everything stems from that. But let's be clear. In defeating Hamas, we're not only doing something that is good for the Israeli people, who won't have to live in fear of terrorists crossing the frontier and butchering their children, but it's ultimately also good for the people of Gaza, because, as you said correctly, Hamas has been in power for more than 16 years. And what have they brought the people of Gaza, Neil? Bloodshed, misery, poverty. I don't think they have one positive thing in their record of government except for causing atrocious, horrific attacks like they did against our people, and that has brought this war upon the people of Gaza.
Mark, I know after this, the Prime Minister has talked about life in Gaza and who will control and decide that after all of this is settled. But I know Hamas shouldn't be a part of it. That's your view. But I've never heard either Qatar or Egypt or any of these other Arab nations agree with that Hamas should not be part of that. Does that trouble you?
The truth is we hear from many people, and of course the United States says it publicly. Britain says it publicly, but others say it privately to us, that they want to see Hamas removed from power. And the truth is, across the Arab world, in capital cities, there's not a lot of support for Hamas. And as we take out Hamas, they're not shedding tears. On the contrary, they see Hamas as an Iranian proxy. They see Hamas as an extremist group that's against their own interests too. And so once we have destroyed Hamas, as we will, I think you'll see countries working with the people of Gaza, with Israel, to build something new. And ultimately, what we want to see in Gaza, a post-Hamas Gaza, is a Gaza Strip that has been demilitarized and de-radicalized. That'll be good for Israel. That'll be good for the people of Gaza. That'll be good for the entire region.
We shall see. To your point, we're a ways from there. Mark Regev, the senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mark, thank you very much.